All right. And we also have a tie for first place. We have Ken Kennedy.
And Paige Wheeler, of course. Great job, Ken and Paige. They get the AO Scan sample pass, the 6-pack of AO Scan sample passes.
That's right. Congratulations. All right. Now we get to turn the time over to Deb Bruce.
Cheers. It is so much easier to just prevent something instead of treating it. What if I told you that there was a way to protect your eyes from the damage you can receive from screens, phones, and sunlight? And that it's really simple. Let me introduce to you AO Vision by Solex. This product is the first of its kind to take the ingredients and break them down into a nano-sized particle before putting them into the gummy strip. That honestly makes it taste more like a sweet treat and less like a supplement. Key ingredients in AO Vision include lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin C, vitamin E, blueberry, maqui berry, and bilberry. All of these ingredients are found in nature and proven to help support eye health. And they're separated into these little individual packets, which actually make them easy to share with your friends as well, because friends help friends have healthy eyesight. The added bonus, I think that they're delicious.
So let's get to the heart of the cardiovascular system, literally. When you think about the cardiovascular system, think about from the medical standpoint, in the medical field, what's some of the diagnoses that you might hear? There might be coronary artery disease, heart failure, arrhythmia, heart valve disease, congenital heart disease, stroke, peripheral artery disease, high blood pressure, aortic disease, so many things that people can be diagnosed with where they have a problem with their cardiovascular system, from a heart or brain, heart attack, stroke, that type of a thing. So what can we do to help with this situation? We know that in the news, there's been a lot more rise of heart attacks since COVID, especially in younger people. So there definitely are things associated with that we're going to want to be looking for. But just in general, how can we help people, especially when they're getting even a little bit older, their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, older, when they're worried about a heart attack, or even more so if they're worried about a sudden stroke? You think about it, people tend to worry about these things because other things have more symptoms, but a heart attack and a stroke sometimes all of a sudden hit out of the blue. So if we can help people with our scanner to realize that by checking frequencies and checking and seeing if their body in these areas is at the optimal frequency functioning, that we can help them to see ahead of time if there's things that they can improve on in order to make it where they don't have to worry so much about these things. We really are going to be doing them a great service in using our scanner. So let's just look at a few things that are involved with that and just touch on some of the highlights of what you can do with the scanner in order to help people, reassure them, and help them get their health in this area to where it's more at that frequency gold standard. First, let's think about some of the risk factors. So what have we got? We've got age. Okay, age, the risk increases with age. We've got family history. If a family has a great big long history of heart attacks and strokes, obviously the person's going to be more concerned about what's in the future for me in this area. Then we have lifestyle. What is this? Unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, smoking, alcohol consumption that isn't in moderation. This is some of the major risk factors that can happen with these two different types of problems. Other conditions that tie in with those lifestyle issues are diabetes, obesity, also kidney dysfunction can be something that can increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. So let's look and see what's in the scanner that can help. So when you're scanning, you see here the PDF of the heart. You're going to want to look for 1s and 9s in the heart, and then go to your reports and see what is associated with the heart in your reports that can be making it so that the heart with the different views is showing up with the 1s and 9s. We know that we have the regular heart view. We have the other two views of the heart as well. So investigating the 1s and 9s on the PDFs and then looking in your reports for the clues under the different categories of what's associated with the heart is going to be really important. You'd also want to look and see when you find those different factors, is it saying that it is on the low cause? In other words, the area of the heart is becoming tired, or is it showing a high cause, a 9, with low cause being a 1, high cause being a 9? Is it showing that there's increased frequencies for inflammation? These are the things that you want to start to pay attention to, and then look into your reports to see what's being associated with the heart in those different areas. Inner voice, and in this case, inner voice with the heart so that it pulls over from other areas of the scanner information with personalized suggestions. This is just invaluable. So if you look at this person's report, you're going to see that you can glean some really valuable information about what you would want to look for in the heart. You can see here that the heart is mentioned specifically under the suggestions that came up that are personalized for them. It also talks about the kidneys and the gut. And if you think back, it was talking about kidney dysfunction, and the suggestions here on healthy diet and what are the ones that were suggested as being lifestyle issues and things that need to be looked at. So this is very relevant to this person's cardiovascular health, as well as looking at the potential causes and looking at the emotions. We know that on so many places, on so many of the videos and Lauren's talks and so much of the information that we've gotten, that the emotions have been listed as one of the primary causes and reasons why people end up with the different problems. When you think about it from the standpoint that the brain releases neuropeptides that then go and attach to different areas in the body. And we talked about if there's 1s or 9s, lower function or inflammation, those different chemicals that are released from negative emotions, such as are showing up in this report, that affects the function of the heart or can cause an inflammation to develop. So these reports are just invaluable when it comes to starting to realize what to look for. And here again, if you go back to your reports and look at the different categories, you're going to see the different things that are associated with what comes up in the inner voice that is done when it's inner voice done with the heart in order to pull over that extra information. So here again, look at the 1s and 9s, go to the inner voice. Here's the second inner voice, and under the heart again, coming up, there's a lot of information again, some of it repetitive, some of it different. The brain is also coming up under this report. So this would have a connection possibly with future frequencies for heart problems and stroke problems. So this is something that we would want to really pay attention to in order to help somebody in this particular area. So if you look at this, this is the list of emotions that came up for the person in the report. Now, on the inner voice, one of them that was listed was fear. If you look at the top here, the very first one is fear of failure. And when you go back down through, you're going to see another one, fear down again, halfway down. A lot of these emotions, you can see why in inner voice with the heart, these came up as being ones that were priority emotions. And these are going to have a major effect on that person's cardiovascular health. So once again, lifestyle, unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, smoking, alcohol, diabetes, obesity, kidney dysfunction, all of these risks. And a main one can be family history, a genetic predisposition that can really increase their risk a lot. Now, why is this important? Because if you look at this slide here, this person under miasms, which we know is a DNA frequency predisposition, if you look right in the middle, it says gonorrhea. And what do we know about that miasm? We know that that miasm is where somewhere in the past, a number of generations in the past, somebody had gonorrhea. And in the world of homeopathy, it was found that this can cause a DNA energetic dent that down through the generations, there could be a predisposition to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, osteopenia, osteoporosis, all kinds of things that have been sped up, skin tags, warts, kidney stones, cataracts, all those types of things. So this person coming up with gonorrhea, not only could they have a predisposition towards the heart disease, but they also could have a predisposition towards different things like diabetes that would lend itself to the heart disease and have its own problems on its own that would work together as causing a problem with the cardiovascular system. So it would be really important to look at the miasms and see if there is a predisposition towards something that's coming down through the family line, and then to be able to work with it. Here again, under toxicity in their report, if you look what's there, remember under lifestyle, it said alcohol. And if you looked back at that report, if you had it, you'd also see that it talked about that they needed to use hydrochloric acid and pre-meal enzymes. So look at what came up under toxicity for the heart. It came up as alcohol, either consumption or gut fermentation. So alcohol, making sure that they're drinking moderately, if at all. But then gut fermentation goes back to their inner voice showing that there was picked out, personalized for them, the need for acid and enzymes. Well, that has to do with that they've got their own personal distillery in their gut because their food isn't breaking down properly. It's rotting and fermenting in the gut. And they basically have their own Kentucky distillery going on down there with fermentation, which would then be something that predisposes them to having heart problems. And again, look at the second one, stress hormones. What came up in the inner voice? The need to reduce stress. What came up under lifestyle risks that can make it where somebody has a possible problem with their cardiovascular system, with the heart? Well, stress and their dietary. So right here under toxicity, you're seeing two areas that would be really invaluable in helping them step up their game and improve these areas so they wouldn't be as much as risk of having those problems, especially since you've already seen that genetically they're going to be leaning towards that problem from the time that the sperm hit the egg. Then if you go to their toxicity list, their group hit for the whole body, you can see that the whole body has a number of areas that are being hit by stress hormones, by being acidic, possibly too much coffee, some bacteria, metabolic waste. So they could be getting some systemic inflammation, not drinking enough water, possible mold and fungus. And then the last one, tobacco or nicotine. Now, in this case, if they're smoking, then that's definitely going to be a risk towards heart disease or possible stroke. Otherwise, the other possibility is that they're picking up a lot of nicotine from different foods that they eat, like potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, cauliflower, all the peppers, that type of thing. So evaluating the risk as to whether it's from something they're eating or if there's a more problematic problem like smoking is going to be invaluable in helping them with the cardiovascular system. Where else in your scanner can you look? Well, you can look at your chakras. Look at your chakras under vitals, as well as a lot of other areas in vitals have all kinds of information about what is going on in the cardiovascular system that you can look at and see what things are out of range and what things need attention. But here with the chakras, if that's going to be their breaker system, then you would want to look and see if possibly the heart was showing up as having a problem energetically in the body. In this case, it being in the red, so something that shows again that it needs to be paid attention to. And then you have the meridians, the wires going through the house. See if at this point, this person, the meridians didn't have as much problem, but the chakra did. So these are two areas also that you could get some very valuable information and be able to use that to help them. Then we go to body systems. Body systems can give all kinds of information on what's going on with the heart and with the cardiovascular system, circulatory system in general. This also is going to be very valuable for you. If you look under ways to improve your circulatory frequency statistics, look at what's here. This showed up the same as Inner Voice did, and the same as what showed up in comprehensive under the body parts. Manage stress. I already talked about how that can influence the system. Eating healthy foods. In their Inner Voice, it came up for them to consider possibly like a Mediterranean diet to improve their diet. And that isn't something that's cut or paste. It came up under their Inner Voice, and it's coming up under body systems because it's something that comes from the database that is not static, that shows up in everybody's report. It's picked out specifically by their brain for them because it knows by the algorithm what's going to help them improve. Then you have minerals. We saw that they had a pH balance issue, so they were acidic and needing to get more minerals. Here's drink alcohol in moderation. And then Solex Blue, which is just invaluable in helping the circulatory system. So now let's move on to the stroke possibility. We know that a lot of strokes are associated with the cerebral cortex. So here on the PDF of the cerebral cortex, you're going to be able to once again see if there are 1s and 9s and if there's areas that need help, and then go to your comprehensive report and see what is associated with those 1s and 9s in the cerebral cortex. Is it something that they have heavy metals? Is it something where the emotions are causing an issue? Do they have parasites? What about bacteria, viruses? All these things can really wreak havoc on the frequencies of these areas, which then would put them more at risk of eventually having the physical issue. Here we can see what remedies they came up for under homeoenergetics. Under homeoenergetics here with the cerebral cortex, you can see which ones had 5s, the first 2, so they had circulation support. That would tie in greatly with the cerebral cortex. And then you can see that they also came up under chemicals. So these are 2 things that they would want to pay attention to in the future. And it would be something that you could choose to imprint for them in order to help them with the cerebral cortex, as long as the stress was not too high, which it isn't in this case. It is ideal. The benefit is a little bit low, but it still could be applicable as far as helping them with the cerebral cortex. The second one that they came up under heart, which would also tie in with the cerebral cortex, is look at adrenal thyroid support. So there's your stress factor again, okay? And then heavy metals, okay? And then sciatica support. So whether or not to imprint this would depend on how much benefit there was of stress and whether it was ideal or not. But at the same time, even if it's not imprintable, these slides for these areas are picked out by the brain, so it can give you very interesting information on what to look for in future scans, or what the brain is picking out and wanting you to know about that particular system. So choose by the numbers whether or not to imprint them, but at the same time consider that even if it's not ideal and you wouldn't imprint it, it still is very valuable information. It's showing that they have too much stress, they have heavy metals that are going to need to be detoxed in the future, and they could use some chiropractic care of the spine. This other one under homeoenergetics in a different view of the heart, showing the need for endocrine support, radiation detox, and also the one at the bottom is very important because once again, it shows up that psychosis, which is the gonorrhea in the family line, which makes it where they are leaning energetically towards the problem with the heart and also leaning towards the problem with the cerebral cortex. So that's just a couple of things that we have seen that are in your scanner. There's so much more. You have playlists that you can use. You have the infinity map that you can use. Supplementation in your back office, the omegas, blue, pulse, using the hub for mind engagement to help with the emotions and to help with the physical state of the body. and then the 660 band. All of these things are so valuable, and they're things that you can do to help with your cardiovascular system. So I hope that this helps you. Tonight, we'll have another future episode where we dive more into other parts of the circulatory system. But for tonight, just remember that your cardiovascular system literally is in your hands. You're able to help it with your scanner. You're able to help the people that you scan. And I look forward to speaking with you another evening.